Hey, Sammy, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on. I'm all excited.
I know, and I love that we're both a Samantha.
I know our little debate before this, Samantha, Sam, or Sammy.
I know, yes. And we both love Samantha, just so if everybody wants to know, you can call
Yeah,
me
it's a little
Samantha.
confusing considering my username is literally type 1 Sammy. But when I introduce myself, I always say, I am Samantha.
That's our given name.
Yeah. I know it's like people who are like, my name's Madison. And then people are like, okay, Maddie. And they're like, no. That's me with Sam. I'm like, don't call me Sam.
Yes, I'm with you.
Note to self, people, if you call me Sam, I'm gonna not be your friend.
Don't call
Kidding.
us Sam, either of us.
Yeah.
Oh, so tell us a little bit about you. Like, where are you from?
So I am from Southern California. If people are familiar with Southern California, I'm from like Ventura County, so Thousand Oaks, Westlake area. In particular, it's called Newberry Park, but people are like, "What Newberry, huh?" So I just basically say it's like 45 minutes north of LA and 25 minutes south of Ventura. So been born and raised here my entire life, and I went to Pepperdine, so I didn't go too far from home.
And you're in school now?
So I finished at Pepperdine. I finished a semester early because COVID kind of allowed me to take online classes. And then I started grad school in January of 2022. And I will be done end of August, very soon.
What do you do for fun?
I am a dancer. So I've been grown up dancing my entire life. I taught dance for a little bit. I did dance in college, didn't major in dance, but did the program. And it's just kind of second nature to me. I was on dance team all of high school. I literally danced since I was 2 years old. And I still take classes. Like I might go take a class today. I'm
What
debating, honestly, because I'm like, it's a 45-minute drive. But I'm like, oh, it'll feel good when I'm doing it. It's a little debate. But I like to do that. I love working out. If people follow my account, they'll be like, yeah, you're a freak of nature. Like you are obsessed with it. But it is something that I actually do enjoy. Love working out. I do like cooking. I love going to the beach. That sounds really funny, but going to school in Malibu, I was a beach bum. I joke, but I could tan all day, every day. And I'm sure I'll look really old by the time I'm 25, which would be in 2 years. But I'm like, I love it and it feels so good. So
I'm jealous that you even live by a beach because I'm landlocked here in Colorado. So
I know it's so funny because when I went, I was like, I don't know why I didn't feel that way, which maybe because I like skiing. And so we went skiing up in Beaver Creek and I was like, oh, this is great. But then I was like, wait, they totally are landlocked.
we are. We have a few little lakes, which is nice, like that you can go to, but no oceans.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very much a weird concept to think about that because I'm like, whenever I think about like if I was to move, I'm like, well, I've got to move by oceans. Like, there's not an option. And then I'm like, oh my God, Samantha, you better be making a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, I have some friends that like are from beach towns that live here now, and they go crazy in the summer. They're like, I need a beach now. But
Yeah,
I'm used to not having a beach. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, so also landlocked.
one landlocked to another. Yeah.
Yes, just now, thankfully, we have the mountains, but
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's stunning there. My family always talks about it because it's amazing. So
yes. And so, what type of dance do you like to do?
I like to do any type, but my favorites are contemporary and jazz funk. I love it. I'll do it any time of the day. Was never a tap girly. Never my thing. Sorry, people. I know people are like, I love tap. I'm like, you cannot pay me to do tap. Honestly, anything. Like I'm open to doing any kind of dance other than that.
Even at a bar?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm like, you could put me in a bar and be like, okay, Samantha, they're gonna like have a dance floor, and I'd be like, oh, okay, game on. I'd
Yes.
be like, all right, I'm whipping on an old dance routine.
That's like weddings too. Like I love weddings because I can just dance.
Oh, yes, that's every wedding I go to. I like find my one dancer friend, do the same like dance routine or the same dance exercise. It's funny. It's very entertaining.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So when were you diagnosed with type 1?
So I was diagnosed in 2012. I'm a 2000 baby, which is crazy. And I had all the symptoms that are a normal type 1 case. My cousin on my dad's side has it. So I wasn't like that unfamiliar with it, but I also was not familiar with it by any means. I was just kind of neutral. Like I knew my cousin had type 1 since she was young. When I was around her, I remember seeing like her insulin pump. but I had no idea. Like at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, she has something wrong with her. What is it? Like that kind of thing. And then I went through all the symptoms, and I was like a week where I was dancing like 7 hours each day for 4 days, like 2 to 9, because it was like we had like guest choreographers coming in, and I just started eating a ton, losing weight, drinking water. And it was so funny because my best friend's mom was my teacher. That's like how we became best friends. And so I was in her room and I was like, Mrs. Sherman, can I like drink out of your like water
Mhm.
gallons? And she's like, yeah. And I kid you not, I was like, when you eat salty foods or like have like soy sauce and you're like, I need like pronto. And that was me every 10 minutes. I was drinking like 9 cups of water. And that was when I was like, Mom, it's so weird. I've been so thirsty. And then at night, and then my mom classically was like, I think you have a bladder infection. Obviously, she knew I didn't. But we were going in because my sister was quote unquote sick, had a cold.
Mhm.
And then I was eating a ton. People were telling me I looked skinny. Of course, at school, I was like, thanks, guys. That's so nice. Like, and then people were like looking at me like, no, no, no. She's not understanding what we're saying. Like, she looks, something's like wrong.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And so we went in, and I'll never forget. This was like classic mom moment. We go in the bathroom, and I think she just didn't want me to like sit out there and be blindsided. So she was like, okay, so there might be a possibility. They might say you have type 1 diabetes. And I literally was like sitting on the toilet. I remember I was like, what? And I like super upset, just starts crying. And she's like, I'm not saying we know that. I'm just saying like it's a possibility. And I was like literally right away, like freaking out, sobbing, because I think I knew the gut feeling of like, this is not a bladder infection. And so like kind of right away, I was like, something's about to happen. And then we went in, and of course they're like, surprise, you have type 1 diabetes. And I was just, from there, it was like, OMG in my head. So yeah, it was definitely a weird time, because I think 7th grade, you're like in the invincible phase, or at least you think so. But obviously, I was like as mature as a 7th grader is going to be. So that's not that mature. So I still was like, oh, like, well, okay. And then they're like, no, you have to take an insulin shot every time. And I remember I was just like, wait, what? No, why didn't, like, my sister can do this. She likes shots. I don't like shots. Like, I'm like, no, no, no. We have the wrong person here. It's all, I'm like, it's all learning curve. It's a crazy thing that I don't think anyone's ever prepared for. So
That's so hard though, too, because I mean, middle school, that's when you're like really starting to become a person, I feel like. And
oh
then you
yeah.
throw this into the mix. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah, for sure.
Your cousin is the only one in your family that has it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It's the only one. So
But you
it's
said it's on your dad's side.
mm-hmm.
Okay. It's yeah, okay.
Common, I guess. It's also interesting. We both have like 4 baby teeth. We have like the same gene. It's really weird. So that's why I'm like, it's definitely genetic, because we have the same gene where we both have like these just 4 baby teeth that were like our mole. I think it's molars. I don't know what hers were, but I think they were the same one. Oh no, they were the same ones, because we'd always talk about it like, this is so weird. And then the diabetes. So it definitely is interesting.
Did you
Yeah.
have to go into the hospital or this was all done at a doctor's?
When this was happening, my sister was having a dance show. It was a very, blurred 4 days. I went in on a Friday, and I hate to say this, and I don't mean to like shat on any doctors right now or endos, but I think a lot of times people freak out. Like even I went to the doctor's yesterday, and she's literally awesome. But my fasting blood glucose, she was looking at other labs, just like it's a new primary doctor I'm going to. And she looked at my blood sugar when I went in. It was 237 when I was fasting. And like, okay, yeah, I have hormone. Like, I'm not on birth control anymore. I have hormones. And now I'm dealing with highs all the time. Reality. And she was like, oh my gosh, like I'm like, I'm so thrown off by that. Like that number scares me. And I was thinking, hop on Instagram, look at all your type 1s. You're gonna be like, oh my God. Like it was funny because I was just like, that's so not to me, whatever. My doctor, thankfully, was the opposite of like a normal doctor where they're like, you're 195. Oh my God, you need to go in the hospital, which like obviously a doctor wouldn't do it at that number. But typically, if a doctor thinks you're gonna be higher than 400, they're gonna put you in right away. Well,
Yeah.
he's a proactive, but he was never like a reactive where it was like, I'm just gonna right away jump to the quickest solution. He was very realistic and logical. So he's like, okay, don't worry. She doesn't need to go to the hospital. Like majority of doctors would say go to the hospital, but as long as she doesn't eat any carbs for the next 3 days, just everything low carb. And then on Monday, take her into children's, she'll be fine. Like, we don't need to, this doesn't need to be like a go in the hospital right away. And honestly, I hate to say that. I think a lot of people that end up in the hospital don't always need to be in the hospital. Like, I've met people that are like, well, I was diagnosed at 3:30. It was really scary. And we were freaking out. And in my head, I'm like, how many times have you been 330 since you were diagnosed? And they're like, I asked one person that actually, and she was like, oh my God, so many times. And I'm like, okay, so that same thing as a type 1, nothing changed just because now you're type 1. Like, that number's still the same number. And I think people forget that. It's like, if you're before you're diagnosed, it's like that's like outrageous. And then when you're diagnosed, oh, it's fine. And I'm like, nothing happened. It wasn't like you got this like magic insulin that like keeps you protected from the blood sugar 330. Like, it's still 330.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
But I was lucky. So I went in back on Monday, and then we went to children's and had like the full, breakdown of everything.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Oh yeah, I got very lucky. It's interesting when I was doing the podcast, I would talk to people and they were like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I was like, wait, what? And they're like, I wasn't told. Like, there's no like program we go through like a kid.
I mean, I was diagnosed as an adult, and that's kind of how it was. It was
Oh,
just
really?
like, good
Okay,
luck.
I didn't know that.
Here's some pamphlets from 1970, like, good luck.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, it's honestly crazy to me. I really it's wild because I'm like, where is the miscommunication there? Like, where is it happening? Because I'd love to know, because I'd love to be able to like change it or like work in that field.
Especially because
Obviously.
this is not just like a simple disease where you take a pill every day. Like, it's a constant disease that life change. Like, we need education.
1,000%. I think that's something else that's funny is like when I started my diabetes Instagram, I started it in 2019. And I honestly was like, I'm going to start diabetes Instagram because I think I saw someone do that. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. People they're like, oh, Instagram this, Instagram that, this person, this influencer. I don't know why I hate the word influencer. I'm like, that to me screams like Kardashians. Like, yeah, I'm like, no, not my vibe. But I started it just like to be like, oh, whatever. I'm gonna like document it, like my stuff. But what was hilarious is I didn't realize, like, literally still right now, I'll be going through, and this sounds terrible, but a lot of times I don't check, like, if I write a post, I don't check what the comments were. Like, I will, but it's not always like I say, if I was to do that, I would be sitting on my phone all day, because for anybody, like, I'm sure you feel this way too, but when you're posting something like that already takes 30 minutes to like think of it, write it up, whatever. And I'm like, I of course want to have like an outlet, but I also don't want to be absorbed in my phone and absorbed in what the media looks like. Oh, how many likes did I get? Oh, that's not what I'm doing it for. So I won't really look. But my mom's funny. She'll be like, did you see what so-and-so said on that? That was like really interesting. And then I'm like, I guess I forget, like, people actually respond in like a conversational way, not just XYZ. And so I'll go on, and I didn't realize when people are like, they'll write a little blurb and it's like, I was just got diagnosed, I was handed XYZ, and I'm supposed to do this. I'm like, wait, what? Like, I'm like, this is so foreign to me. Yes, that's something that I definitely found interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's sad because I keep hearing more and more people who are getting diagnosed and nobody knows what they're doing. It's sad.
It's pretty crazy to me.
Yes. And so you also have PCOS?
Yeah, so it's kind of weird because PCOS stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. I had like a crazy medical, like, in a nutshell, if I break it down, people are going to be like, whoa, she really bomb dropped that. But so I found out my testosterone was high. So like, it's supposed to be between ranges like 20 to 44. Mine's always like 55, which makes it hard to lose weight. And so in high school, I was like, why the hell can I not lose weight right now? Like, it just drove me insane. Dancing X amount of hours. Junior year of high school, like, I had insulin resistance, which 1 out of every 5 fifth diabetic has. So just, I'm like, yes, lucky me. Let's go. Found out they tested all my levels. I had adrenal PCOS. So what that means is your adrenal glands are just pumping out cortisol. And obviously we know, like, cortisol, great in the morning, you want to have cortisol or else you'll be in bed, but it causes insulin resistance, especially for type 1s. That's the thing, is like, when people talk about it and they're not diabetic, I'm like, okay, you're complaining over having high cortisol when your pancreas works. Let's slow down. I'm like, cause you don't understand what it's like to not have your pancreas work. So I found that out and they were like, you have adrenal PCOS, no cysts, but you have that. Then it was like, with all of that, I had alopecia areata, which is basically, for people that don't know, it's like a spot of hair loss. And there's people who have like alopecia all over their head. But I remember I was like at a football game and had my hair up in a pony. And my teammate was like, Samantha, I get a little bald spot. I was like, no, I don't. Everybody starts looking. They're like, wait, what? And I was like, you guys, what are you talking about? I joke like stupid, but I just mean like I'm so like, oh, it's fine, like outgoing that I don't care. I'm like, wait, what? Everybody look, wait, where is it? And it was a size of like a quarter, and then it just enlarged like a size of a golf ball.
Wow.
And that was at the base of my scalp. I remember like, what? And my mom was a hairdresser, so she was like, oh no, like what more autoimmune are we getting? And so that was like tough, obviously, but
Yes.
it was like all a part of one, like the adrenal PCOS, because the high testosterone that caused a lot of times hair loss, which I think triggered the alopecia, which is also autoimmune. And then I was having, just like obviously with diabetes, everything that I fractured my back that year, like got vitiligo, which is like skin discoloration in my like armpits and basically like groin area. Like it was just where you're like, lay it on me. Like, bring it on. But yeah, and that obviously flared up the adrenal PCOS. And so I talk about it a lot because I think there's a lot of diabetics that have it, which typically it's caused by hyperinsulinemia, which is you're in those hormonal phases. Most commonly, it's going to occur in ages like 14 to 25. What happens there is you're resistant, which is common. Honestly, even if you eat really healthy, are still resistant. You need more insulin, more insulin, more insulin. Hyperinsulinemia ends up basically turning into like excess testosterone, like hormones. It can just increase your testosterone production. They don't really know why, but it does. And it like flares up your DHEA and cortisol. And so that's kind of why now so many women are like, I have PCOS. Like I was diagnosed with insulin resistance, PCOS, adrenal PCOS. And I'm like, yeah, because the more insulin you take, hyperinsulinemia triggers high testosterone. So
Wow.
it's a loop. It's a big loop.
You poor
Yeah.
thing. So wait, when did all of this happen?
That stuff started happening my sophomore year of high school. And then I finally, like junior year, when I was like, okay, what's going on? I literally can't lose a pound. I work out 6 hours a day and I eat really freaking healthy. What's going on? Recently, it's gotten tough again, honestly. I went through, long story short, I figured out the Mastering Diabetes method. If you guys haven't seen it, it's with Robbie and Cyrus. It's great. Awesome. Of course, when I first heard it, I was like, yeah, that's a hoax. No freaking way am I going to do that. Like, whatever. Did it during COVID because I'm like, what else do we have to lose? Nothing. So tried it out, worked insane. Insulin went from 26 units to 9 units, 24 hours. Insane, right?
Wow.
Probably also worked really well at the time because COVID was a time where if you were removed from the city and you didn't have the stress of being around people and seeing all of these like detrimental cases of COVID, you were kind of just isolated out in a suburban area and we're just hiking and walking. And I hate to say that, but you were living probably a more leisure life than somebody in an inner city. And that was me. So I was like, had all this time to cook, all this time to do everything that program allows you to do and like fix. So it was great. I lost a ton of weight. All my hormones went back to normal. Like literally I got to the point where I was eating so much every day, but I couldn't keep weight on me where I was so skinny. And it sounds weird. 120 for me, like weight wise, people think like I look like I weighed 100 pounds. Basically, not 100, I'm being dramatic, but people would be like, oh, what do you weigh? Like 105, 110. And I'd be like, 122. And it was like where I couldn't gain weight. And then long story short, went on birth control because I was dating somebody at the time. And, I was like, I'm not going to be the girl I don't need it. I'm different, mom. Like, I was like, no, we don't know. We don't know. Like, I don't think I don't think so, but you never know. I went on birth control. I went on Slin, which is a progestin only pill, because obviously I tried estrogen pill before, like the combination pill in high school when they wanted to see how it would affect me. And I had a lot of side effects. Estrogen also can cause insulin resistance. So went on progestin only. When you go off the pill, all your hormones get screwed up, literally. And so everything like I had done and worked for, I didn't know this for a while. And then finally the hormone specialist I recently went to was like, the second you go off the pill, all that does is take your like straight line that you worked so hard. And it's like taking a crayon and just coloring outside the lines. Everything got messed up again. Testosterone's high now again, like everything. And so it's fine because I'm like, it's life. It's not gonna be perfect. I think we get caught up in this, like, even for me with like body weight, like I'll be like, I can't lose a pound right now. Like it drives me insane. And I'm like, how can my sister over there eat the same thing I'm eating
Mhm.
and drops 5 pounds in a week? Like it's absurd. It drives me insane. But sometimes there's a reality check where I'm like, we're living with not just like a little disease. Like literally it's a disease. Like I look around and I hate to say this because people are gonna probably really judge me for saying this, but I'm okay with it because it's the reality. I see a lot of people with type 1, and I don't mean this to be judgmental. I'm just stating a fact. A lot of them are unhealthy.
Mhm.
Not necessarily saying what they're putting in their body. I don't know, obviously, but healthy in terms of like what is literally, according to a medical standpoint, healthy. Like that body weight, typically when I see it, it's like the body weight is not healthy.
Mhm.
Like that's a lot of visceral fat around your organs. That is a lot of excess weight on your heart. Like that kind of healthy, not from what I think perspective looks like or what I think society thinks is healthy. Like I'm not talking about skinny wise or physical appearance. My exercise science background, I'm like, that is not healthy. And it sounds terrible, but it's so hard because I'm like, the saddest part about it is I'm pretty sure 90% of these cases, they probably eat like a normal healthy to society, which is, pretty much whole foods, processed snacks, maybe like some nut mix or maybe some like, like the paleo cookies that you see, like, but that should be normal. And you shouldn't have to be like so strict and rigid with that. But if you took two people and compared it, it'd be night and day because dealing with type 1 has insulin resistance, sleep affects it. Injecting so much. Where you inject, people say it doesn't impact. It totally impacts. Where you inject is such a thing to me. Like if you inject in your arms a lot, I notice I get fatty spots there. Like it's a thing. And so I think that's been as terrible as it sounds. But when I see that, I'm like, okay, you're doing pretty good. If you're able to like manage for you and like your doctor tells you your cholesterol's good, LDL, HDL, like everything, you are battling a thing. But when I'm around people, who aren't diabetic, I get really in my head because I'm like, why can't I not figure this out? Or like, how is all the hard work I'm putting in not showing?
Mhm.
And then when I'm around other people who are diabetic, I'm saying that they make me feel good, it's not me, but like, I'm like, okay, like you need to give yourself some slack because these people are dealing with the same thing. And they're over here basically telling you like, you're lucky right now that you're able to get this under control. And so I think that's a big thing that is really hard. And we forget that we're dealing with literally a 24, I mean, we are an organ. Like that's the joke, but it's true.
Yes. And so you're dairy free and gluten free, correct?
Yeah, I will say, like, obviously, I am not a there's times the dairy I pretty much stay strict away from, but the gluten, like, I don't eat out a lot because I just don't. I like cooking preferably at home. Obviously, like, I've been traveling a lot lately, so I have been eating out. Naturally, I think a lot of things are now gluten-free just because they do it like that, but there is times where, like, it'll be something random, like a piece of toast with avocado like, it'll be avocado toast, and I'm like, "That's Dave's bread, definitely not gluten-free." But if I can, I try to because I
Okay.
know people it has an effect on PCOS. Now, do I really know if it does? There are studies that show controversial evidence. Well, that's the thing. I got a allergy testing done, and I was a 7 out of 10 to gluten.
Mm.
Which probably is just because I haven't had it, because I think your body builds up an intolerance when you don't eat something for a while. So, like, that's another thing. People are like, "Oh my god, I'm allergic to XYZ." I'm like, "When's the last time you ate XYZ?" They're like, "4 years ago." I'm like, "Ding, ding, ding." Your
Right.
stomach and gut just hasn't had time to adjust. But I was a 7 out of 10. So
Okay.
so
Yeah.
and I definitely notice I hit, like, this fatigue crash after I eat it. Like, I'm like,
Mhm.
"Mm-mm." That did not sit well with me.
Well, I'm gluten free too, and
Yeah,
I
okay.
like it. I mean, sometimes it's challenging, but
Mhm.
I like it. But the dairy free, I give you props for that because that would be so hard.
So I was in Alabama recently visiting family, and I was in Fairhope, and I was like, "Can I what's your guys' vegan option?" And she's like, "Well, we don't really have vegan options, but like I have like vegan sides." Brings them out. It's like broccoli and cauliflower, and I was like, and like again, like I said, there's times that like there's cheese on a salad, and if that's the salad they're serving, I'm not gonna be like, I just won't eat. Like, no, come on, it's fine. But I was sitting there, and I'm eating the broccoli, and I'm like, I swear this tastes like butter on it. And my dad's like, oh yeah, those are just very buttery vegetables. I was like, so like there's times like that it happens. But for the most part, I don't eat any dairy. I use almond milk or oat milk, cashew milk in smoothies. I don't have any cheese. I don't use butter, or if anything, it'd be like a plant-based butter.
Are you
I don't
vegan
have
too?
eggs. hmm
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
I don't have eggs.
Impressive.
I don't have meat. I know. It's kind of funny because honestly, it sounds weird, but like it's not even like a thought now where it's like I don't look at it as difficult. Like I'm just like, oh yeah, I'll just get XYZ. But I guess like I'm a very what's the word? Not like determined, but I'm like very much like when I'm like, yes, this is it. It's just like this is it. This is it now. Like it's not like a oh, I just wish I could have that piece of salmon. Like I did go back to eating fish in January and then my insulin went from 11 to 14 again and I could tell I was starting to get resistant again. And I was
Wow.
like, okay, we're gonna just not do that.
How do you manage your diabetes?
I'm on a flex pens.
Flex pens. What is that?
Yes. So flex, it's a insulin injection pen. A lot of people are you on an insulin pump?
No, I'm on pens too, but not flex pen. What does that mean?
Oh no. Okay. It's just the same thing. They just call them flex pens. Sorry. They literally
Oh.
like when you like see it on like a paperwork or something, they call it like insulin flex pens. I don't know why.
Oh, okay. I'm
It's just
also
always
like
been
you.
like when I first went on it, they're like, "Do you want to be on a flex pen?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll be on a flex." I don't know. This one's called Flex Touch, but this is Fiasp.
That's funny because I've never even heard that term. I always say
Mhm.
just pens, and everyone's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like,
Flex pen.
MDI.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Try Flex pen. They might be like, ah.
Okay, I'll start saying flex.
Yeah, so I'm on those and then the Freestyle Libre 3. I actually really like it. I love it. Updates every minute because I'm someone who, because I do eat fruit, it really makes a difference not having that 5 minutes.
Yeah. Wait, I thought you for the Libra you had to scan. Do you have to scan your phone?
So the 3 is a continuous glucose monitor, actually.
Oh, okay.
I know it's a game changer. I tried Dexcom G7. It's on my Instagram. I did a comparison G7 to Freestyle Libre 3. The G7 fell off within 3 days. Yeah, it was kind of gnarly because those are so expensive too. So I was just like, my mom was like, I have a perfect idea. Why don't you do like a comparison? Because it's like real time. And I'm sure other people want to do it, but like it's kind of hard to get it. It was just because we had already inquired about the Dexcom G7 and then the Libre is so easy to get. So my mom was like, honestly, we have both right now. And I was like, thank you. Like, that's awesome. But I did it. It fell off. And I was like super upset about it because I was like, seriously? Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons. Con about Freestyle Libre, you can't calibrate. Pro about it is that if it's off, you're paying 3 for 250 versus Dexcom's 1 for 250.
Wow. Okay.
So like
Yeah.
the discrepancy there is pretty great.
When you had both of them, were they like pretty accurate though? Like the same numbers?
They definitely were. There were times G7 was more accurate, but then after like the third day of wearing the Freestyle Libre was more accurate. The 5 minute gap made a big difference because I was eating fruit one day and I was like gonna keep injecting, and then literally the Freestyle Libre showed sideways and the Dexcom was still up, and I would have injected a lot more.
Right. Yeah, the Dexcom does do that.
Yeah, and I'm like, what? It's like that's like what it is. I'm like, oh my god. So that's the thing. Yeah, I like being on pens. I just for my lifestyle, I think it works better.
Yeah.
But I always tell people like you have to do what works for you. Like to me, when doctors are like, well, your A1C would probably be below 6.8, or like it would be, 5.8. And I'm like, okay, honestly, that's great. That's awesome. My mentality, which isn't the right mentality, but for me, it works mentally. How off my pump was when I was on a pump was equivalent to if I'm off dosing. Like it was the same outlier variable. How many times it would kink up or this site would whatever, and I'd have to
Yeah.
change it, honestly equaled out to like if I took too much or if I took too less. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, so it's a trade-off. It's like I either wear the insulin pump when it's working great, it's great. But then on the amount of times that the infusion set's wrong, it's kinked, it's going to be the same amount of time as if I just missed 1 or 2 units on here.
Right.
And mentally for me, it's like way better. I'm like, I think having an A1C of 6.6 for me and working out as much as I do is better because I think exercise is medicine and it's protects you a lot of ways, even if your A1C is higher. Again, like there's not like evidence of that. It's a lot of associations on studies. So
And
it's
you're
like,
under 7, and that's what we're supposed to be. So that's great.
I'm like, when I hear someone like, I 5.2, I'm like, good for you. Because I'm like, that's great. But I'm like, I'm not gonna sit here and try to pull the like, oh yeah.
I think their pancreas maybe started working if they're a 5.2.
I'm like, okay, awesome. Snaps.
So what's one piece of advice you'd give to someone recently diagnosed?
Be bold with diabetes. Don't choose that part of your life to be introverted. I firmly believe that. And I actually was gonna write a thing to people like, are you introverted or extroverted? But I firmly think like if there's any part of your life to be extroverted, it's with diabetes because it impacts a lot of things. It impacts you taking insulin injections in public. Don't go to the bathroom. Like if you go to the bathroom right now to go give an insulin injection, I totally understand because it's really intimidating. It's really hard. You don't want to go to the bathroom, like take the shot in public. Don't let yourself cave to what is comfortable and natural to go in a bathroom. Don't because you're introverted and you're like, I just don't want to deal with it. I'm gonna be in denial. Like, no, you're not gonna be in denial of it. Because I hate to say this, but if you're in denial of it, you're not gonna be around here at age 60. I'll
Yes.
just I'll just say it bluntly. Like it's not nothing about diabetes is embarrassing. And so for me, I think it's like really hard when I hear kids say, we don't want to talk about it. And I'm like, no, I went through it. I got it at age 12. I know.
Mhm.
And I was loud and proud about it. Everybody in my high school knew I had diabetes, and there was 700 kids every grade, and everybody knew because I was so obnoxious with it probably and gave my insulin injections in public. Like I didn't care. And so the biggest thing to me is like just be bold with it. Also be selfish with it. And I say that because I think a lot of times we get in this habit where we don't want to burden other people or we don't want to cause ruckus, or if you go low, you don't want to deal with having to interrupt something. But like it doesn't matter. Like it's your body. I'm like, I know when I'm on vacation, I love my family, but they know I have to work out. And if I don't, it's not going to be good. So I'm like, sorry, if when people are like, they're leaving to go do this, I'm like, yeah, I am. And I actually don't feel bad. So
Yeah.
sorry, but I don't feel bad. Like, I think that's a big thing. Be bold, be selfish, but also don't pity yourself because everybody deals with something. And I say this all the time, but like to me, honestly, diabetes is easier to me than if I had to deal with my parents being divorced. It's all what you perspective and what you view. Like to me, just because divorce happens so commonly, people look at it as like, oh, they're just divorced. Oh, they got a divorce. Oh, say it with like whatever. And other things are like heavily weighted in terms of like the charge on that word. But like I would be in shambles with divorce. Like that to me is 1,000 times worse. And I think it's all on perspective. And so like it's all what you choose to put into diabetes is what's going to come out. Not always, because like I said, I've dealt with so much stuff and the amount of work I put in on like, is this a freaking joke? But you're getting paid. I put this on my Instagram, but you're getting paid the best reward, which is like to live a long, happy life. So why would you not do something that's going to not only save your life, but also save the heartache from everybody else, like losing you or dealing with complications. So
Yes. That was great advice. So how do people get in touch with you?
I am on Instagram at type 1 Sammy. I also actually am on Honey Health. It's a new diabetes app. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Honey Health. There is a bunch of basically, I'm going to promote it right now, but there's a bunch of diabetes creators on there. Different products, services, anything. It can be nutrition. I'm the exercise person on there. There's like tips for babysitting, so like Raquel, I don't know if you know type 1 together. Yeah, she's the best, but she's on there. There's people on there for like milk and honey nutrition. It's just a lot of different things. It's really awesome. But I am on there for Sweat by Sammy, and that is an exercise platform. Find me on there, but on Honey Health, I'm Sweat by Sammy. Basically, I put a bunch of different workouts on there. So you can find me at Type 1 Sammy, or you can find me on the Honey Health app, Sweat by Sammy.
Yay. Well, thanks so much for being here. That was
Thank
great.
you for having me. It's been awesome. And I'm
Of
like
course.
so excited and honored that you wanted to have me on. So thank you. And I
Of
want
course.
to hear about your story. So we're going to have to do another one.
Yes. All right. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.